love one another as I have loved you, that you also love one another. By this love, all will know that you are my disciples if you have love for one another. Happy anniversary. Thank you. I'm going to tell you, I'm not used to talking to myself. And so I expect a little interaction. It is indeed good to be in the house of the Lord. It is good to be in the house of the Lord that is St. Luke's. It is good to be back home, and I thank Diane Tyrants Neal and the members of the anniversary committee for your kind invitation to be here. And I thank Reverend Hilton for sharing her pulpit this morning. As she indicated, I grew up in St. Luke's, and then I got to the age where I thought I didn't need church, and so I left. You know how that is. When the Lord finds you and kind of reels you back in. My father did serve on the vestry, and he drove the Sunday school bus after Mr. Turner retired. The Sunday school bus where we drove all over this city, and even out to the suburbs, to Como Park, Maryland, to pick up children and bring them to Sunday school. And sometimes their parents came, and sometimes they did not. But it didn't matter because the kids were here. My son David was baptized in this church, and so it's good to be back. It's good to be here to celebrate your anniversary. And we've heard a lot about this thing called love, right? Bishop Curry, every time you hear him, it's about love, the way of love, becoming beloved community. But this is not that fuzzy love. It's not send me roses kind of love. It is not give me chocolate candy, although if you have chocolate candy, I'd be willing to accept it. It is not that kind of love. This is a tough love that has enabled you to make it, to survive here for 145 years. It is a kind of love that you show each other and show the world that you are Christ's own. And sometimes even the church forgets that. We get so hung up on stuff that we forget why we're actually here. They will know we are Christians. They will know that we are followers of Jesus by our love. And as we celebrate your anniversary this morning, I want you to turn to your neighbor. Yes, she went there. Turn to your neighbor and say, happy anniversary. Happy anniversary. And it is all about love. All about love. Happy anniversary is all about love. We are here to celebrate 145 years of sharing the gospel of Jesus Christ in this community, sharing the love of Christ. And there is much to celebrate. St. Luke's has had a long and vibrant history that I don't have to repeat, but I'll repeat just a little bit of it. In 1875, Alexander Cromwell, abolitionist, educator, priest, son of a formerly enslaved man and a free woman, left St. Mary's Foggy Bottom, which was the first Episcopal parish formed in D.C., and we know why they had to have a black church in D.C., right? A black Episcopal church in D.C. But anyway, he and others left and formed this church, this building, this location, as the first independently formed black Episcopal church in Washington, D.C. St. Luke's was formed out of necessity, a refuge from racism and bigotry, born out of rebelling against a society that did not see black folk as human beings, even in the church. Fast forward from the 19th century to the 21st century to today, and we have to ask ourselves sometimes, has anything changed? Has anything changed? And yes, we will acknowledge there have been some changes, but there is still work to do. The black folks are still struggling for equality, and just let that kind of sit for a moment. We're still fighting some of the same struggles today. And if we don't do something about it, our children will be fighting the same struggles. And they're looking at us now saying, I thought you fixed this. And we say, we thought we had to, but apparently something happened. And so you were here to celebrate a glorious past, and to look toward a bright future, because this city, this diocese, this community needs you. It needs St. Luke's. The last time I was in this pulpit 4 years ago on Ash Wednesday, the sermon topic was a change is going to come. Change has come, and change is the only constant. The question is whether or not you will manage change or change will manage you. We live in interesting times when folks walk right past our churches, don't look right or left. Most of them don't even realize they're passing a church. Our neighborhoods are changing. Long-time residents being forced out, pushed out. Development is the big thing. Bike lanes, baby carriages, and dog parks are in vogue. Churches become condos. A few weeks ago, I participated in a march to save the Alexander Crummell's School in Ivy City. Crummell School was built when Ivy City was black. Ivy City is changing. Talk about St. Mary's, now in the center of George Washington University, formed when Foggy Bottom was predominantly black. When Foggy Bottom lived up to its name, it was an atmospheric quirk, susceptible to industrial smoke and fog. It was swampy, it was bottomland. And if you had the means and there were no restrictions, you didn't live there, which tells us who lived there. And then there was Georgetown. Used to be black. D.C. is changing. D.C. is gentrifying. Landmarks are being torn down and condos are sprouting up. Chocolate City has become Cappuccino City. But the long-term residents of Ivy City, they refuse to let the school be torn down and replaced with condos. The black residents are determined that the school bearing the name of Alexander Crummell will be repurposed for the benefit of that community. Those who have struggled and remained during the good times, the bad times, and the badder times, they are committed that their voices will not be silenced. They will not be erased. Their history in that community will not be forgotten. It will not be ignored, and there is a lesson to be learned. St. Luke's cannot be erased. This church, founded by Alexander Crummell, will not be erased. This history, St. Luke's history in this city, in this community, in this diocese, will not be erased. Amen? Amen. Amen. Y'all not going nowhere. Right? And so what might happen is that St. Luke's and the folks in Ivy City might have to join forces to help save each other. But you've got to keep your eyes open. 2 blocks north, 4 blocks east stands a building. A building that once groaned at the seams for 1,400 congregation members on any given Sunday. But over the years, gentrification creeped in, parking became a problem. Neighbors walked right by. The older members, if they could get there, could not find parking spaces, and so they stopped coming. Attendance dwindled to 20 members a Sunday in a sanctuary that held 1,400. After 149 years of serving the Lord, 149 years, they didn't even make it to 150. Lincoln Temple United Church of Christ closed its doors forever on September 30th, 2018. If only the people who overflowed his pews on that Sunday were there every Sunday. But you know how church is. You want to fill a church? Have a funeral. Want to see the church filled? Have a funeral. And so the folks on that last Sunday came to see a funeral, the death and burial of a church. Too many of our historically black churches in this diocese and other denominations face an uncertain future in this city if we don't do something about it. And so I'm going to digress this morning from the assigned readings because something is happening and it must be faced, and we are going to survive, and we will. And so this morning's message is celebrating in Babylon. And again, turn to your neighbor, tell your neighbor, we're celebrating in Babylon. We're celebrating in Babylon. And I read from the book of Jeremiah, the 29th chapter, beginning with the 4th verse. Thus says the Lord of hosts, the God of Israel, to all the exiles whom I have sent into exile from Jerusalem to Babylon. Build houses and live in them, plant gardens and eat what they produce. Take wives and have sons and daughters. Take wives for your sons and give your daughters in marriage, that they may bear sons and daughters. Multiply there and do not decrease. But seek the welfare of the city where I have sent you into exile, and pray to the Lord on its behalf, for in its welfare you will find your welfare. Multiply there. Do not decrease. Seek the welfare of the city where I have sent you into exile, and pray to the Lord on its behalf. For in its welfare you will find your welfare. And may the Lord add a blessing to the reading and hearing of God's most holy word. The truth of the matter is this area is changing, and we can feel like exiles in our own community. Those who have lived here, those who have worshiped here can feel like foreigners in our own community. But the prophet Jeremiah has a message for us. The prophet Jeremiah brings a word from the Lord. Gentrification and change, deal with it. This is where you will find your life. Deal with it. Deal with it. This is one of those times when you wish Jeremiah was here. Jeremiah, who speaks a word from the Lord, you wish he was right here, right in front of us, so that we could tell him a thing or two. And since he's bringing a word from the Lord, we can say, and take this back to the Lord. Deal with it. Where were you, Jeremiah, when this area was struggling? When 14th Street was not the 14th Street it is today. Where were you when you couldn't find a grocery store and now you got Whole Foods, where a bag this big cost you $50? Where were you when the ladies of the night and the drugs were the major businesses? Where were you, Jeremiah, when it was a little sketchy to walk from And now you come and you tell us to deal with the changes we see? Are you for real, Jeremiah? But tell us, okay, Jeremiah, tell us, how do we do that? How do we deal with it, Jeremiah? How do we deal with people who walk past our church, even with our red doors? Because we're going to paint them all red, folks who know this in church, right? They just walk on by, their heads don't turn to the right or the left, they don't even know it's a church here. How do you deal with people who barely open their mouths when you walk past and you speak to them? How do you deal with folks who are pushing baby carriages and walking dogs and carrying their yoga mats on Sunday morning? How do you deal with that, Jeremiah? Can you give us a hint? Do those who have worshiped here and want to continue worshiping here feel a little like the brother of the prodigal son? You know, the one who stayed and did everything he was supposed to do, but when the son who had squandered everything came back, Daddy threw him a great big party. And we understand, Jeremiah, that our situation is a little different than that, but it certainly feels that way. Those who have stayed are getting the wrong end of the deal. That everything is being given to the newcomers. Here we are today, feeling exiled in our own community, feeling like we are adrift on an island cut off from the mainland. And Jeremiah is telling us to deal with it. That we will find our future among people who don't even seem to want to be bothered with us. But ambiguity and confusion about the future are dominant themes in Jeremiah's letter to the first wave of exiles deported from Judah to Babylon in 597 BCE, before the Common Era. He advises them to stop expecting an early return to Judah and to settle down for at least a generation. This is not going to be a quick fix. It's going to take some time. The prophet wrote his letter to the homesick exiles, folks longing for the past. He tells them that God says, your old life is over. Your old life is dead. Your new life is to be found in Babylon. Deal with it. Settle down. Adjust. Settle in for the long haul. Stop looking back at your old life. It is gone. Anything that does not change dies. You can choose life or you can choose death. The choice is yours. I mean, this was harsh advice for the exiles. Jeremiah's message was difficult to hear, difficult to digest. Everything the Israelites knew was changed. There was nothing familiar in Babylon. And the Israelites had been exiled because they failed to do as God had commanded. And this is not quite the situation in which we find ourselves, but the results don't feel any different. Although if we had taken seriously Jesus' command to make disciples, maybe the Episcopal Church would not be losing members. Perhaps if the Episcopalians weren't afraid of the E word, y'all know what the E word is, right? Evangelism, right? We might have been out in the world sharing the good news, the gospel of Jesus Christ. But all around us, things are changing, and it is not on our timetable. And the advice of the prophet is seek the welfare of the city where God has sent you into exile. And pray to the Lord on its behalf, for in its welfare you will find your welfare. Really, Jeremiah? You want us to get comfortable in Babylon. Babylon has arrived at 15th and P. That is what you are telling us, that Babylon has dropped in on us and we just have to deal with it. You know, it's not unfathomable that the exiles longed for a different time, that they wanted to be back home, where life was predictable. They knew what was going to happen. Even if things were bad, at least they were accustomed to that particular bad. God is active in our lives, and we just need to get down to the business of making disciples to transform a hurting and broken world. Israel found herself in a pagan land surrounded by temples of all sorts of gods. We find ourselves in a different land with different temples, sometimes blocking out the light, but they all have granite counters and stainless steel appliances. We are surrounded by bars that are proliferated and eateries that cater to all types of palate. And it seems sometimes that folks are more interested in feeding their stomachs than feeding their souls. But we've got what they need. They just don't know it. And we haven't told them. Jeremiah told the exiles that rather than being resentful or rejecting what was going on, to settle in, put down roots, become productive, show fruit. They are to embrace where they find themselves in ways that lead to faithful living. And with God's help, we are to seek the welfare of those who walk past, who don't see us, who don't want to see us. Because in seeking the welfare of the folks out there, you will find your welfare in here. You got to go out there to find your welfare in here. The call is for St. Luke's to make the kingdom of God right here, right now, in this place. And we have to give folks out there a reason to get out of bed on Sunday morning. We have to give them a reason to come here as opposed to going to Starbucks. Because that's where they went.
That's where they go.
That's where they go. Maybe we need to just go over to Starbucks. Have service there. You, like Israel, have to pray on behalf of those who appear not to notice you. And also pray for yourselves that you are able to live into the mission that God has given you. That when folks out there see you, they see Jesus and say, wherever you got that, I need to go and get me some. Takes a different mindset. Seek the welfare. But something has to happen. This is not saying that St. Luke's will stop being who St. Luke's is. This is a historically black church. Seeking the welfare does not mean that you will assimilate and become black out there. Because to assimilate means that you have to destroy something of yourselves. You have to destroy something that God has created you to be. The message is, be who you are, but take it out there. Let people see who you are, because we learn later on in the 11th chapter that God says, for surely I know the plans I have for you. Plans for your welfare, not for harm, to give you a future of hope. And while it might seem that we are swimming against the tide, it might be a little struggle initially, but we have a future because God has given us a future. We have to live into that future. So where do you start? The prophet Habakkuk gives some insight. Says, write the vision, put it on tablets, make it big enough so everybody can read it. And in the midst of the struggle, there is the promised land. But we have to use something that's called prophetic imagination. Prophetic imagination is not foretelling. It's not a crystal ball. It's saying that we see the future that God has for us. We understand where we are right now, but we see the future. But each day we're going to live our lives as if the future was the present. That's how we are to survive. And then to live into that imagination, to live into what can be, you're going to have to take a risk. You're going to have to take a risk. You can't keep doing the same things and expecting something different. You're going to have to take a risk. managing change is risky business. And I'm reminded of Hebrews and Moses. When they got to the Red Sea and Pharaoh was bearing down on them, the Red Sea was between their old life and their new life. So we got to get through this Red Sea. And in our minds, we see Moses, played by Charlton Heston. Right?
Yep.
So Moses, played by Charlton Heston, is standing on dry land. He has his staff. And all of a sudden, the waters part and they're able to go through. But the rabbis give us a different version because this is the Hebrew story, right? And they said that in order for the waters to part, to escape to a new future, Moses first had to get in the water. He had to get off of dry land. The rabbis say he had to get in the water all the way up to his nose, and then the waters parted. Moses had to risk everything. Are you willing to get wet, St. Luke's? Are you willing to get wet? Yes. To get all the way in the sea of change up to your nose? I know some of y'all can't swim. But we don't know if Moses could swim anyway. But he had to take that chance knowing that God's, I got you. I got you. If you just step off dry land and into the water, the seas will part and you can get to your new future. And so, God is about to do a new thing here. But you got to be open. You got to get wet. You got to take that chance. You've got to energize with the history of the past. You've got to tell your story more than once a year. You got to tell your story more than once a year. God will make a way in the wilderness called gentrification. You've just got to risk it all and follow through. But now you know, when the people were in the wilderness doubting their leader, because that's what people do, doubt their leaders, they said they preferred to be back in Egypt under Pharaoh's foot, under the rule of Pharaoh, because the past is comfortable. Folks like the old way. But God makes rivers in dry land that will enable you to survive in places that you believe were not designed for you. God will make a way, but you've got to risk a new future. You've got to leave the certainty of Egypt and take a chance on the promised land. And so, St. Luke's, what is that future? Let's revisit the past. Alexander Crummell and you have been leaders in this city. Amen? Amen? Amen?
Amen.
Alexander Crummell and you have been leaders in this city. And that role must be resurrected. The future is bright as you become the hub for historically black churches in this diocese to be the center of thought and discipleship. That when you want to know how to do something, you got to call St. Luke's. You want to know how to do something? You call St. Luke's. You got to be known for doing things differently. Rather than people coming here, you send people out there to other churches and say, this is how you do this. Because that's what St. Luke's in the early days. You want to know how to defeat racism? How to deal with Jim and Jane Crow? Look at St. Luke's. You need to be the center of thought and discipleship to transform this broken city, to transform this broken world, to transform this broken community, to be a leader in this diocese, to be an example of how it is to truly love one's neighbor, to put those words into action. Where folks say, what does love look like? Call St. Luke's. Call St. Luke's. To be an example of the love community, to before you. You just need to step out and wade in the waters all the way up to your nose, be immersed in the kingdom. But the road is not going to be easy. There are going to be those who will lag behind, longing for Pharaoh and Egypt. There will be grumbling. There will be grumbling. There will be grumbling. There will be grumbling.
Yes.
There will be blockers. But you cannot be dismayed. God will take care of you because God says, I know the plans I have. Maybe you all haven't figured it out, but I know. And you just need to do what you need to do. And so it's time for folks. See, I can say this because I'm reading this Sunday. It's time for folks to lead, follow, or get out of the way. Lead, follow, or get out of the way. And you can stand there all you want to, but change will knock you down. So lead, follow. This is what if I was on the block, I'd say something else, but get out of it. Get out of the way. St. Luke's, God is taking care of you, God has taken care of you, and God will take care of you. You are still here in the center of prime commercial territory. In the midst of people who may or may not know just how much they need Jesus. You have to take a risk and follow where God is calling you. You have to get wet. You have to take a chance and wade into the waters all the way up to your nose. And if there is brokenness in this church, you must first heal. Because you can't build something new on a broken foundation. Amen. St. Luke's, it is time to celebrate that God has placed you here 145 years ago for a time such as this. That you have survived, born out of struggle, born out of rebellion, born to lead the way to a new and brighter future. They will know we are Christians by our tough love. Celebrate and then get to work. This city, this community, this diocese, this world needs you. And may the Lord bless and keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon you. And may the Lord strengthen you for a new and brighter future. Amen. Amen.